In this episode of our photography review show, we're gonna look at 61 photos from 29 photographers. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of our photography review show. My name is Jacob Bors and I'm a professional photographer based in West Sussex. For the past 2 or 3 years, I've been reviewing photos of my friends and colleagues, and because it was very popular, we decided to introduce this and offer this to our photography community here at Clever Photographer. Now it's been very popular, and this is the reason why we had to limit the entries to 2 or 3 photos per photographer per week. Now for the last 6 months we received many photos, and that's also a reason why we decided to divide the shows between 2 or 3 parts. One part where we always look at the landscape photographers, and then in the 1 or the 2 others we look at the rest of the photography styles. Now we have lots of photos to look at, so let's jump straight into it. But before we're gonna do that, I wanted to remind you to make sure that you like this video, that you comment below, and also subscribe to us so you don't miss any of the future episodes. Now one more reminder goes about our new Facebook photography group. It's called Clever Photographer Academy, and it's a space where we talk all things photography. We answer your photography questions there, we review your photos throughout the week, and we also play and run lots of really exciting photography competitions. So if you haven't joined us here, make sure you head to Facebook, search for Clever Photographer Academy, and join us there. Now before we're gonna jump into the reviewing, let's look at last week's Photographer of the Week. And here we are introducing you to our last week's Photographer of the Week. Now this week we are very excited as it's been a while since we had a portrait photographer in this award. Now it goes to Michaela Firešová. She is a nature and portrait photographer based in Czech Republic here in Europe, and it is really the portrait photography we want to commend her for, as she does really nice fan art, kind of stage kind of portrait photography, and it's really beautiful. Here is an example of her Instagram profile with a beautiful mix of different color styles. Some of them are captured interior wise, some of them exterior. They really work. The beautiful settings and composition, lots of storytelling, and also high quality when it comes to techniques and lighting. I love the use of the elements, of the costumes, of a makeup, all of it put together in a careful but quite powerful post-processing. So Michaela, congratulations, we love your work, and for all of you, if you want to learn more about Michaela, if you want to see more of her pictures, make sure you visit her Instagram profile on this link right here. Now she also does amazing nature photography, so if you want to check her nature photography, as you can see here, beautiful foxes, owls, and other animals, make sure you also visit her profile here, as it's really worth it. So Michaela, one more time, congratulations. And for all of you, if you want to become our photographer of the week, make sure you head to our website cleverphotographer.com/review and find there all the links and dates, and send us your photos and maybe become our next photographer of the week. And there you have it. So that's all of that out of the way, and it's time to jump into the second part of our photography review show. This is the part where we're gonna look at the rest of the photography styles. We have a macro photographers, mixed team photographers, and wildlife photographers to look at. 9 photographers in front of us, so let's start right away. So first of all, we have 2 macro photographers in front of us, and the first one with an incredible images is Guido. Guido, I have 2 pictures from you, and I have to say that those are some of the most prettiest macro photos I've seen for a very long time now. So let's jump into it. First of all, let's see if we have any technical details of the images, and we do. So right here, let's start by this one. Nikon D500. The lens you're using is 80 to 400 millimeters. So the settings you are using: ISO 400, 400 millimeters, f10, 1/320th of a second. So with ISO 400, pretty much no noise from what I can see, or well handled in a post-processing. F10, obviously with 400 millimeters, yeah, you want to make sure that you keep certain parts sharp, and that's well handled too. 1/320th of a second is a good speed for this kind of animals to make sure that everything is nice and sharp. So all in all, the setting is well done. Now, when I'm looking at it just like this, the depth of field is really full on. Obviously the background, it's becoming almost like the kind of distance bouquet with some shades of different greens and white, but I think it works quite nicely together with the combination of the colorful butterfly. On this one, we have a Nikon D500 150mm lens, again ISO 400, so looking at the both images, that's what you base on. 210mm, so really again zoom in. F9 1/500th of the second shutter speed, so all in all good. I actually like the background on this one a little bit more. Some stuff of it you can't really obviously control, and this just really work, and I think it worked really nicely. Again, more kind of bouquet. I really like how the foreground is all in focus, including pretty much the whole butterfly. There are bits and pieces which are a little bit out of focus, but I think all in all it's really well done. Again, I think technically two of them, good job, really well done here. Now when it comes to composition, I really like this one. I think it works. I quite like the fact that at least the front part of it is still in focus. I'm not 100% sure about the white vignette around. Not necessarily around this part of the image, but I think over the flower it kind of it's a bit more visible than I would like. But other than that, I think obviously the main subject is the butterfly with the flower. I already told you about the background. All in all, well done. This one out of the two is probably my more favorite one. I love the background. I think the main flower really creates a nice base for the butterfly. The contrast is brilliant here, probably even more pushed than on the first image, and both of them together just really lovely. Now finish it off on a post-processing. You're getting a little bit of the glow around certain parts of the image, which can come from a little bit over processing it. But other than that, the white balance is great, the saturation is great, it creates really nice drama. I really like the dreamy look of it, and it's just well done. On this one, as I told you already, I think the white vignette is just a little bit too visible for me, but other than that, it's really lovely. Again, lovely colors, great white balance, and all in all, Guido, as I told you on the beginning, probably one of the nicest macro photography I've seen for very long. So well done, congratulations on your work. And if you have a moment, make sure you come and join us at the Clever Photographer Academy. It's where we talk all things photography. We do photography competitions, answer photography questions, and we would love to have you over to get inspired from photos like yours. Moving on, the next photographer, we have a Ray Padilla. Ray, we have two images from you. We kind of put you on a macro photography because I think that's what it is. Just for the future, for every one of us, and for every one of you, we always try to ask our photographers to stay away from signatures, watermarks, and additional frames when they send their pictures for the reviews. I understand you want to protect your work, but for us, the most important is to focus on the actual artwork rather than looking at the font and the colors. So that's just for the future. Now let's have a look at the images. First of all, technical type, technical skills. Both of them shot with Canon 80D. The first one we're looking at right here, ISO 400, f7.1, half a second, and 100mm lens. So quite nicely done. I really like this kind of dark background. I think everything in the main part and the focus part of the image is nice and sharp. I quite like that. I like that some pieces have the kind of nicer depth of field, but you can still see what it is, so it's quite nicely done. The light is also quite nicely done with some highlights at different parts of the image. I think when it comes to framing, I think it's a shame that that certain parts, specifically up here and around, are a little bit out of the frame. I think we can maybe talk about that in the composition, but all in all, technically I think this is well done. Everything is sharp, there's no noise, or the noise is well handled. The light is cool, well done. Now, out of two, I really like this one, and I think it's a little bit of a shame that it's a smaller resolution picture, because once I kind of zoom in a little bit more, I start to lose the details. However, starting with your setting, ISO 400, 100 millimeters, f9, 1/200th of the second. Again, sticking with the 400 ISO, obviously talking about the lighting condition, I think this looks really cool with the backlight on the back, on the black background. Well done. It looks really cool, kind of mystical. It's just very lovely picture. Again, the framing, I think it's a shame that you're missing parts of the image, but altogether I think it's a great capture. Now, talking about compositions, once we here, I think obviously this is the main subject, so I would make sure that the thing is in the center, so you can do a simple crop there, just to make sure that the actual circle is in the center of the image. And then for the future, I think it would be more balanced and powerful if there would be actual space above and below of the image. Other than that, I think composition wise it's quite nice. Obviously it's all about the main subject, it's all about the lovely texture on the plant and on the light from behind. Now on this one, if there would be a little bit more space on the top, I think it would be perfect. Obviously it's again a little bit kind of like a still life texture-y work. You're working with texture, color, contrast. I maybe wish the background would have a different color on this one, simply because the brown and black doesn't create necessarily crazy contrast, but it's still very nice and it's very well handled. Post-processing, nothing I would add, neither one of them. I think they're very well handled, very well done, very natural look, still carefully edited. So Ray, well done on your images, great to see them. Take care and send us more pictures in the future if you can. Next photographer, John Dalston. John, you sent us two completely different images. So we have this ultra macro photo, which is super cool actually. It's a lovely capture. And then this portrait, black and white portrait. So let's have a look at them. Starting with this one. So looking at the details, Nikon 3300, ISO 100, 105 millimeters lens, f3.3, 1/400 of a second. So beautiful capture. Obviously, probably because of the transition to the JPEG, you're getting a little bit of noise in specifically these areas. f3.3 creates this really nice depth of field, which I think in this case really works because the main subject, the main point of the animal is still in focus with lots of lovely details on the head of it. Just great. 1/400 of the second would be probably ideal for this scene anyway. And then some of the flowers being in focus and some of not. I think John just works very well. Now then we're switching to completely different subject. So obviously we have this girl with the white frame in front of her. And now from the settings again, Nikon D850, ISO 64, f1.8, 1/400 of a second. So very good work with the depth of field here. Obviously focusing on the face, using this more as a foreground element, using the framing, looking at her and looking at her eye, really good focusing here, very interesting light, and actually very interesting picture all together. There is a really nice light going on her from the side as well. Just a shame that again, probably from the transition to the JPEG, I'm getting lots of these kind of pixelated spaces. And also on this image there is this part where there is almost like some kind of forgotten painting or something like that, which kind of takes a little bit of the attention away, but other than that it's all cool. Let's see if we could just quickly remove it here. If I make this really small and maybe do something like this and then jump out of it, at least for now it's removed. Okay, so technically again very well done, great light, great skill with focusing, and obviously using the foreground and background and altogether I think both of them are technically very well done. Now talking about composition, this one is great. I really love the position of the animal, of the flower. Putting them in the right corners of the image works really well. In the like a higher or top, the thirds in the cross here, and the flowers similarly. I think altogether just really works. I don't know, I wouldn't do any other cropping. I really like the fact that there is the part of the flower here visible as well. I think it all plays really nice scene, and the contrast of the colors together works really well as well. I think the cool blue and green with the purple and with the natural colors of the animal again works really well, John. On this one, I would probably crop it a little bit tighter if it would be me. Although I know what you're trying to do there. I think with having it that big, that frame which is out of focus, almost taking away from the girl's face. So I wonder if we could crop it a little bit more, just like this, to maybe keep some shape of it, and maybe do something like this would help. What probably kind of distract me more here is the pixelated areas on the image, which I think again is a little bit shame, and something we can look at for the future, because other than that it's great. I really like the sharpness, I like the light coming from the side, so composition wise it's nicely done, it's smart, it's clever, it's a bit different, and it's very well done. Post-processing on this one, other than focusing on the pixelation, nothing I would add here, and actually nothing here neither, John. I think it's super well done. I think the light is great, it's all very natural, it has the right contrast, the white balance is awesome, the shadows and highlights really work here as well, including the texture and details. So all in all, John, you have really something to be proud of. Obviously, two of them completely different discipline. This is not necessarily the end of the world. I've seen lots of really nice portrait, but I think your macro photo is really excellent. So well done. If you have more pictures, either or, portrait or macro photography, make sure you send them over. We would love to see them. Moving on, the next photographer, we have a Lori. Lori, we have two images from you, and this week unusually in a mixed category because of this moose. Well, I hope it's moose. Either way, it's a lovely animal, and it's something a little bit different. So first, talking about this one, let's have a look if we have any camera details. So sticking with your Canon 5D, ISO 100, f8, 1/250th of a second is absolutely spot on for a scene like this. ISO 100 great, f8 again, seeing that there is not really immediate foreground, the sharpness is all the way, which I really like. So well done there. The light is very nice. I love the texture in the sky, again mirroring in the actual lake here or loch. I think that's a great capture. All in all, technically very well done. Now talking about this one, there are not really details here, but the focusing, obviously the plant in front of is sharp, but the animal is sharp as well, and it's something very smart. I think it's very well done. The animal is kind of hiding behind, it leaves a little bit of a space for imagination, and all in all, technically with the sharpness, with the light, and with the contrast, I think it works very well, Lori. So well done. Congratulations for another great capture. Now looking at it as a composition, really all I would do is probably just crop it a little bit tighter to balance the composition, to make sure that it's all in the middle. So that's about it. Now you see the bottom line is going through its eyes, which I think works very well. There is just enough space above it, so I think that works pretty cool. And altogether, it's really nice. It's again kind of a little bit mystical, but together I think lovely capture. Now talking about this one, unfortunately I don't know if we could crop it even further, because if it would be me, I would be going for something like this. As you know, I really like when the reflection is on a center, because it always creates really nice and balanced composition. You know, it kind of copies and it almost looks like a mirror, and it looks really cool. But yours is just as good. Again, maybe I would wish there is a little bit more of these stones, or maybe you went a little bit lower, so they are more as a stronger foreground element, so that would be quite cool. But still, they're there, so I think they work quite well in sense of giving us a depth I think composition for the reflection works very well as well. The sky in the water works, and it's always great. And this is a great capture. It's almost like out of this world. It's like from a movie, but it just looks good, Lori. So this is very well done. Now, post-processing, I already told you, I would have cropped it like this. And to be honest, I would probably crop it a little bit tighter on the side as well. Maybe just a little bit, something like this. As always, after that, I think your white balance is good. I would maybe lower a little bit of the exposure. I think it's a bit too bright. Other than that, there I would leave it. Always space for a little bit of local adjustment if it needs to be. Maybe in this case linear gradient from the top, just to close it a little bit, and again add attention towards the center of the image. Let's see, something like this, and then I would jump in with a brush and maybe do some plus exposure, just kind of around, again picking up the kind of edge of this, which I think works really cool, and then another one with minus, and just kind of maybe highlighting the rocks and do something like this. So that's about it. That's where I would leave this one. Talking about this one, just kind of like looking at it now from the second view, there are certain parts here which seems to be maybe with a little bit of post-processing, and I think it's maybe a little bit visible. There is some kind of repeat pattern here, and just something to kind of look at to make sure that it's not as visible. Other than that, I would just add even heavier vignette, something like this. Add focus by using the masking on the actual animal, so something like this, and I would leave it there. So Lori, thank you so much for sending us your photos. Always a pleasure to see them. If you have more, and I know you have more, send them over. I can't wait to see them. Moving on, the next photographer, Shailendra. We have 4 images from you, and we only have a time to review 2 of them. So this one, looking at it, is out of focus. It maybe move the camera or something like that. This one and this one. So let's remove this one. Let's talk about this one and this one. So first, let's have a look at the technical part of your image, starting with the bird, looking at your camera settings. So you're using Sony 7 Mark III, ISO 3200, 200 millimeters, f5.6, 1/8,000 of a second. Shailendra, 1/8,000 of a second is way too high even for an eagle. I think you could easily go a little bit lower, which would then allow you to bring the ISO down, and that would allow you to remove some of the noise which is visible on the bird itself. When I kind of zoom in, you can see specifically in the darker areas, but also a lot in the sky itself. So lower your shutter speed, and then lower the ISO will help in overall, and that's about where I would leave it there. On this one, same camera, ISO 400, 24 millimeters, f8, 1/400 of a second. So for a scene like this with such a high speed, I don't know if there's something moving, but I would probably again go with the ISO a little bit lower. The goal, the ultimate goal is ISO 100, and that's where really you get the best result in overall. f8 is a great number, I think that's right, but 1/400 of the second is a bit fast and no need for this scene. So if you go again lower with your shutter speed, you can then go lower with your ISO, and the quality of the images will improve. Now, staying here with the composition, a little bit difficult to actually say what is the main subject between the two of them. Obviously this is extreme where the subject is isolated on a one color background, so you can easily say what is it you're trying to show us here, where on this one it's really difficult to say what is it you're trying to show us. Is it the pond? Is it the flowers? Is it the trees? Is it the plant in front? Well, if I look at it from the point of composition, this part is pretty much the only part which is in focus, so that would be the main subject, and in that case the rest of it doesn't really need to be there. So first what I would do, I would make sure that my picture is straight by doing something like this, and then I would crop it even a little bit further to maybe get something like this. So this is where I would leave it from here. I think it's a shame for these parts here. I would try to avoid them in the future. So again, you can crop them maybe and actually create something like this and get something really interesting. So this is where I would leave it with the composition. On this one, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the composition. I think it's very well done. I would maybe crop it a little bit more to make like a movie view look. So to get something like this, and you get plenty space in front of the bird, and the result is actually really cool. Post-processing, nothing to add on this one. I think it's very well done. I would just focus on making sure that I remove some of the noise here in a detail and a noise reduction. So I can do that, go by 20 and just bring back some of the sharpening. On this one, I would bring some of the exposure up. In color, I would remove a little bit of the saturation, bring up the vibrance, and in effects, I would definitely do a little bit of vignetting and create something like this. So Shailendra, thank you very much for sending us your photos. It was a pleasure to see them and review them. If you have more, make sure you send them next week. Until then, take care. Now moving on, the next photographer, we have a Stevie. Stevie, unusually for you, we have some wildlife photography as well. So 2 pictures per week. So let's have a look at this one and this one. So talking about the bird, let's have a look if we have a technical details of the picture. Nikon D500 and the settings: ISO 800, f5.6, 1 2500 second. Okay, your lens 500 millimeters, so really kind of zoom in. With the ISO 800, I can see you getting some noise in the picture, which is obviously completely normal in those levels. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. And f5.6 is good. 1 2500 of a second just seems to be very high. But then I don't know how the bird was moving or anything, so you would know better. All in all, it's a lovely capture anyway. The bird is sharp all the way through. There is a very lovely blur at the back, and I think it works very well. Now on this one, this is probably, if I have to be honest, one of the nicest pictures I've seen from you for a very long time. It's awesome. Brilliant, brilliant long exposure, beautiful leading line, and excellent sky. Altogether, Stevie, beautiful, beautiful. And it should work as an inspiration for the others. ISO 100 spot on, f11 spot on, with obviously the leading line being starting from the beginning of the image. 5-second exposure, well timed, well handled, and well done altogether. Now talking about composition, staying with this one, the leading line bringing in the really nice flow, the water and the reflection creating a really nice depth of field with the lovely slow dreamlike effect here. Really cool, beautiful sky as well with lots of texture, just all together really nice. I wonder, I would probably crop it a little bit tighter still to go for something like this, just again because these kind of pictures like you create here looks really cool in the kind of panorama crop, and the result is brilliant. It's just well done. On this one, when it comes to composition, there is not much really to add. You're already creating the composition with the depth of field. You're leaving space for the bird on a side. The bird is walking, which is really nice. The drops looks really cool. The reflection helps a little bit with the depth, but altogether it's kind of simpler photo when it comes to composition, but just very nice capture of the animal. Post-processing wise, I would keep an eye on the white balance here. Let's have a look what auto would do. Just maybe a little bit of a warmth and a little bit of vibrance, and maybe a little bit of kind of local adjustments if you would want to, not necessarily have to, but maybe just a little bit of linear gradient from the top to close it up a little and even more bring the attention towards the bird. Let's add another one from the bottom, somewhere here, and then working with the brushes to add extra contrast in luminance to do something like this. And on this one, nothing, Stevie. It's beautiful picture and I don't want to touch it because the result is brilliant. So well done, you should be proud about this one, and just like always, all of your pictures all together very cool. Take care and send us more pictures next week. Okay, moving on the next photographer, Stuart. Stuart, I got 2 images from you, where this one is very, very nice with a lovely sunset. This one I can't really review, Stuart. It's really, really pixelated. Probably very small resolution. I'm not sure why, but already when I look at it from this distance, it's really pixelated. I can't recognize the face. And when I zoom in, it is even more. It seems like maybe it's from mobile phone. It's also a bit tilted. So Stuart, if you have it in better condition or better format, make sure you send it over. But in the meantime, let's have a look at this one. So we are here. Again, I think it's a mobile phone capture. So that's where the camera settings are not really that important, but still ISO 50, f1.8, 1/3000 of a second. So let's have a look at it. So first of all, I think there's quite nice sharpness in the foreground and kind of going all the way through. So that's quite well done. The glow, obviously the sun is a little bit overburned. Now, when it comes to sun, there are 2 kind of way to capture it. When it comes to professional photography, you have one where you get the full glow with really nice gradient, and the other one is where you have a really defined circle. Now, yours is a little bit between, which is completely normal for mobile phone. The picture is still very, very lovely, but you get lots of these kind of lens flares, and you get a little bit of glow and a little bit of sun. Now, if I go into the setting and just check in the light and I hit the whites with Optional Alt, you can see everything what's not black, it's basically burned down, so it's overexposed and the data is lost. And you see how most part of the sun is basically lost. Now I can lower it, but it still have a parts which gonna be overexposed. So that's just something for the future to think of. Other than that, it's a lovely light and it's a lovely scene. So when we move into the composition, first thing first, I would make sure that my horizon is straight, which can be done here in crop. So I can really just kind of turn it around and maybe get something like this. And to make the composition a little bit more balanced, this picture almost called for being in a portrait shape. So then again, that can be done here. It may be something like 4:3. Let's have a look. If we would do something like this and just bring this a little bit down and maybe get more like this, I think we would get much stronger and much more balanced composition as well, simply because when I show you the picture before, you see this element is not really balanced with that one, where like this suddenly the main subject is the sun and obviously the light coming down, and I think it's really cool and very well done. So all in all, like this is where I would leave it. When it comes to post-processing, let's have a look on your white balance. I would push a little bit more yellow, a little bit more tint, maybe a little bit of vibrance. And now we can obviously do some local adjustments. So we got little gradient here and bring down the exposure to make it even more stronger. We can do the same from the top, just here, to do something like this. We can then add a little bit of coolness into the sky to do something like this, nowhere near as much, but maybe just a little bit like this. And then in the effects, we can add the vignette and get something like this. So all in all, I think it's a lovely, lovely picture, Stuart. This is what I would do with it. Balance a little bit more tight on the crop, just few touches, and all in all, it's a lovely capture. So thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you for sending the pictures over. It's a pleasure to see them. Take care, and hopefully to see more of your pictures in the near future. 2 more photographers to go through. Wildlife photography as usual to finish the run on our usual Monday sessions. So we have a Donna Ruiz to look at first. Donna, 2 images, 2 birds from you this week. First of all, let's have a look at the technical settings. So let's talk about this one. Nikon D850, ISO 800, 500mm lens. Oh my god, I don't even want to imagine the size of that. F7.1, 1/2000 of a second. So the bird in lovely, lovely flight with lots of beautiful details. Obviously with ISO 800 you do get some noise, specifically in these parts of the image. And I think because of the blur, most of the rest of the image is good, so just a little bit. I love the sharpness, I actually love the light, and I love the contrast of the bird with the background, so well done there. Now talking about this one, again, Nikon D850, ISO 800, 200mm lens, f4, and 1/6400 of the second. So really cool image. Now on this one, I think the noise is a bit more visible, probably also because you crop a bit more. Specifically on the wings, you can see it fair bit. Still, the sharpness is great, and to be able to capture the bird inside of the flower and kind of keep the sharpness all the way through, I think it's really well done. Now, sticking with this image and talking about composition, I think one thing which is a shame is this kind of, probably the bird and the flower were quite close to these leaves, so they take a little bit of attention away. However, still, the fact that he's flying like this and the square crop, I think together works very well. However, if it would be just the flower and the bird, and you would somehow be able to remove these parts, it would be even cleaner and a cooler composition. Now, talking about this one, I would crop it a bit differently. I think there's way too much space on the top for him, and I would probably get something like this. So almost like a camera shot, with still plenty space in front of the bird flying, and anyway the bird is your main subject, the star of the shot, and totally deserved. It's just beautiful capture. Talking about post-processing, I think this one is very well done, very natural. Again, you can do some kind of local adjustments if you would want to, but all in all, I think it's very cool. Obviously, you can do a little bit dodge and burn, a little bit here maybe, and here and here, nowhere that much, but a little bit just to bring more attention. The contrast of the colors of the birds and background just really works here, so that's very cool. On this one, not much to do really. I mean, in effects, push the vignette. Again, maybe some local adjustment with the brush, but by adding the brightness, you kind of a little bit adding the noise as well. So I would just leave it. It's more kind of for the future, for the next time, to work a little bit with the contrast and a little bit with the elements. But obviously with a bird like this and the position, there's only limited thing and limited time you have to work with it. It's still great capture. I know how difficult is it to capture a bird like this in this movement. So all in all, Donna, thank you so much for sending us your photo. It's always a pleasure to see them. Take care, and I hope to see more of your pictures in the near future. And let's finish the show by looking at pictures from Ken. Ken, we'll have a look at this picture, of course. On this one, it's the lamppost which is in focus, and the bird is very much soft and blurry, so we're not going to look at this one. If you have a better capture or better version of this picture, make sure you send it over for the next time. But for this one, let's have a look at it. It's a beautiful capture with the bird very much backlit from behind, creating really nice light around him, and a beautiful reflection in the water. So let's have a look at it. Talking about camera setting, Nikon Coolpix P1000. The camera setting, ISO 100, f4.5, 1/800 of a second is great. 49.5 is not your usual length, usually going for much longer. Obviously, it's almost like silhouette-like with the backlight, which is really cool. I really like that. I think it's a little bit different. I also like that he's a bit more isolated this time. There is no grass around, so I think it works really cool. And technically, with the sharpness and the details, I think it's very well done. Now, moving on the composition, what I would do, I would make sure that my reflection is right in the middle. So I'm right here, and I can crop a little bit of the flowers here, that's no problem, and get something like this. So then I'm getting almost like a mirror effect, which works really well for composition. So I think that's really cool. And that's about it. That's what I would leave it for the composition. I think it works very well. The reflection is really a strong element. The depth of field created with the bird works really cool, and the contrast of the colors works very well here. Now, talking about post-processing, definitely adding a little vignette would help, and then maybe with a little brush and little added exposure, I would just highlight the actual reflection here. So I would do something like this, and again something like this, maybe not that much. And then I would close the picture from the bottom, which we can do here, and do something like this and lower it just to make it a little bit cooler. And we can do one more linear gradient around the actual bird and just bring a little bit more exposure on him. And that's where I would leave it. It's a beautiful capture. Love the reflection, love the fact that we have the full bird. Very unusual with the light from the back, with the backlight, and gorgeous, gorgeous image. So thank you very much for sharing it with us. I hope to see more of your pictures next week again, and also inside of the group. So thank you for participating on all of that, and take care. And folks, the same goes for all of you. If you want to join us for the photography review show, there's only one way to do it. Head to our website, cleverphotographer.com/review, and that's where you can find all the link, upcoming dates, and information about the Clever Photographer and Photography Review Show. Once again, thank you very much for joining us this week. Take care, and until next time, keep shooting.